Hello! This week we're going to be reading A Doll's House, which is a play by Henrik Ibsen. So I want to give you a little bit of background information on Norway and the time period in which the play was written. The Kingdom of Norway was established by Constitution on May 17, 1814, following the end of the Napoleonic Wars. The Constitution was considered both radical and traditional. It was radical because it included a separation of powers, similar to the American Constitution, and extended the right to vote to all men, but not to women. But it was also considered traditional because Norway retained its monarchy and its constitutional church. Religion. Most Norwegians in the 1800s were Lutherans. Initially, the Constitution did not grant religious freedom for Jews or Jesuits. Jesuits are part of the Catholic religion. It's a certain order of priests, known mostly for their dedication to scholarly pursuits. In 1842, there was a ban on lay preaching was lifted, so evangelical churches began to appear. In 1845, the dissenter law allowed other Christian faiths to establish congregations. And in 1851, the ban on Judaism was lifted, and by 1897, monasticism and the Jesuits were allowed. Economics. After the Constitution was ratified, Norway experienced significant growth, and they called this the Great Boom. It went on for approximately 30 years, from 1843 to 1875, and they attribute this to both international trade growth and growth in agricultural productivity. At the time, Norway also became a better educated society, and this was probably a result of compulsory reading. So everyone had to learn how to read and write. And then the Puritan revival created a more productive workforce. Women's rights. A woman was the property of her father and then later her husband. She had no right to divorce, even under the most abusive situations. A woman's life was defined by motherhood and marriage. Women could not go to college until the end of the 19th century, so that would have been like the 1890s. And even then, it was very rare for women to be able to go. Women were excluded from careers in both medicine and law. Middle-class girls were taught to converse, to entertain, to play a musical instrument, to paint, but not with oils, and to read French or Italian, but never Greek or Latin. Greek and Latin was reserved for the highly educated and was also closely linked to medicine and law. The woman question was something that hit Europe about the time that this play was written. John Stuart Mills wrote a book called The Subjection of Women, and it argued that women should be extended equal rights. So this time period in Western civilization was replete with feminist movements. So you see that in women's suffrage and women wanting the right to vote and to have some kind of say in their own destiny. Basically, women wanted choice. So that brings us to A Doll House by Henrik Ibsen. Some books that this play is included in call it A Doll House, and others call it A Doll's House. I believe the link I gave you calls it A Doll's House. However, they are the same thing. So if you run into literary criticism of A Doll's House, it is the same as A Doll House. So the basic scenario that's going on in this play is a married woman has a secret. And this secret could destroy her. And she has to decide whether she's willing to try to make her own destiny, or if she's willing and lose everything she has now, or if she wants to sacrifice her destiny for what she has now. So it's a very good story as far as enlightening goes. If you've read anything by Kate Chopin, you might see some similarities. So as you start reading, I want you to think about this. Does Nora do the right thing? And there are several things that Nora, and she's our main character, does throughout the play. And so there's a lot of things you can say, does she make the right choice? What other choices did she have? Could she have done anything differently? What do you think about a marriage that Nora and Torvald have? Is it something you would like? And what's very interesting here is as we get into the discussion boards, we're going to have very differing points of view because this kind of play really does divide itself among men and women. And, men see things one way and women see it a little bit differently. Think about how obligations force us to make choices. So how do these choices affect personal freedom? So when we make these choices based on our obligations, how do those choices affect our personal freedom? Are we sacrificing any part of our personal freedom? And if so, to what extent do we do what is expected rather than what we want to do? So these are all ideas that we can talk about as we move forward with reading the play. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.